Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we're going to be talking about the Nature's Incarnate unboxing video. So this video was posted on Reddit, or I guess on YouTube, and then someone linked it on Reddit, and I'll leave that link in the description. And GTG has the completed boxed up Nature's Incarnate expansion, and they did a unboxing video. And in that video, someone zoomed in who is far better at technology than I am and was able to screenshot the new adversary, and that is Habsburg Mining Expedition, which is HME. So the purpose of this video is to do a general walkthrough of what HME is doing. I'm going to leave out analytics, strategies, all of that stuff, and that will be talked about at a later date. Today, I just want to focus about this adversary. So let's look at that loss condition. And I'm not going to read the names because it's really blurry and hurting my eyes. So let's just get to what it's doing. So the loss condition is at the end of the fast phase, the invaders win if any land on the entire island has a total of 8 invaders/blight, and that's combined. Now, some key points. First, it's saying at the end of the fast phase. This is different from England, which is just any time. So remember, England's loss condition, if you have at any time 7 buildings in a single land, you lose the game. This is mentioning a total of 8 invaders, so that includes explorers as well as blight. But you get to you have until the end of the fast phase to stop that land. Let's show an example. So let's say we have 3 explorers. Let's put some towns. Let's put some blight and a city. And this is going to be 3, 6. This is a total of 8 things. So I have this slow turn as well as next turn's fast to deal with this land, or we lose the game. Looking at the escalation, it says after advancing invader cards on each board, explore in 2 lands whose terrains does not match a ravage or a build card. No source required. Couple things to point out. First, it's saying terrain types. So this will not include the salt card, and that's something we'll talk about later in the video. And remember, the terrain types are wetland, mountain, sand, and jungle. So it is the escalation is going to trigger with the cards not matching those types. So an example, just to showcase, we have wetlands, mountain, sands, and the explorer would be jungle. And the so after exploring, so we explore jungle, and then we would escalate. We would escalate into the lands that do not match sands or jungle. And just to review what that is, it is you're exploring, so it's an explore action, and it's going to occur in 2 lands. And it says no source required. So if this is what my board looks like, after I explore jungle, I then have to escalate. I have to do explore actions in either the mountains here or the sands, A4 and A7, and I can actually split it. I can do just both mountain or both sands. So you guys get the point. Now, if one of these cards was the salt card, it would just trigger, so it would not be this turn, it would be this turn. So when this escalate occurs, it would only check the wetland terrain type. So you would not target the salt card stuff. And once again, I'll get into the specifics about the salt card, but that will be in a little bit. Overall, I think the escalation is a minor factor for the adversary as a whole. It doesn't have that much pressure compared to some of the other escalations, but overall the adversary creates a lot of pressure, so I think that's okay. The loss condition is definitely, I think it's actually perfect. I really like that the players get that slow turn and that fast turn to deal with that land before they lose the game. I hate like the instant losses, like with England or with France. I hate that. I also like that this punishes, I guess, strategies that throw all the problems in one land and don't really think twice about it. So sorry, Finder, you can't just throw everything onto someone's board because this loss condition is very punishing. So if you're a Finder fan, you're not going to be a fan of this adversary. Okay, so let's look at the first level here. So HME level 1. We have 3 big bullet points, and this is where a lot of the rules overhead is tied into. It's this rule here. And the first rule, it says that when blight is added by a ravage action and it would cascade, instead upgrade there. So you're not cascading, so less blight is coming off the card, but you're going to have more pressure in that land due to upgrades. Let's create an example. Let's say they explored. Oh, my button is broken. That's sad. Is it? Yep, it is. So wetland explore. They then built, and now they're ravaging. And let's say there's also a blight there. So wetland ravages. They ravage in the land. They blight the land. There is now, there's no cascade because of that first rule. But now you have to upgrade. And remember, upgrading is replacing an explorer with a town or a town with a city. So I can either replace that explorer or replace that town with a city. And that's what happens whenever a cascade occurs. Now, once again, it's cascades only during ravage action. So if you purposely cascade a land, you do not have to upgrade. Well, actually, let me rephrase. If you purposely cascade a land, you have to cascade and you will not upgrade. So if I place a blight, if I play like a blighted card here, it would blight, and then it would blight an adjacent land. Okay, looking at the second rule here, and this is very, very important. It says lands with 3 or more invaders are considered mining lands. And in mining lands, 2 things happen. First thing, disease and modifiers to disease affect ravage actions as though they were build actions. Basically, that means disease cancels ravage actions. Let me show an example. And that occurs only in mining lands. So we're going to have this, and we're going to have this. You have wetland ravaging. This land has 3 invaders. It is a mining land. Because of this bullet point, the disease will cancel that ravage. No blight gets added. Now, this wetlands is not a mining land. And even though there's disease, it does not matter. It will ravage and blight the land. And this is going to trip up players because you have one case, 2 very similar cases. It's just the difference is one's a mining land and one is not. Let's make it a little bit more challenging. And let's say there's already a blight there. Well, now, when it ravages, it is not a mining land. So it blights. And due to the first part of level 1, when blight is added from a ravage action, it would not cascade and there would be an upgrade. So once again, that disease is not going to prevent the blight, and we are still not going to cascade because of that level 1 rule. Now let's look at the last rule here, and it says during the build step, build cards cause ravage actions instead of build actions. This is the most important rule from level 1, and this is where a lot of that rules overhead is. It's this rule right here. Let's showcase what that means. So let's say our board looks like this. I'm going to put some stuff there. Okay. Let's say our board looks like this. Put it down there. So wetland is ravaging. We have 2 mining lands. 1 mining land, there's a disease, so cancels. Next mining land, there is not blight. Now, Mountain will be building. It says during the build step, build cards cause ravage actions in mining lands. So A1 has 2 invaders, so it's just a regular build. A6 has 3 invaders. That's a mining land, so it's now going to ravage instead. It's going to blight. What happens if there's a disease? Well, we just talked about disease and modifiers to disease affect ravage actions. So we have a land here, A6. It is ravaging because of this rule here. But we have a disease there. Disease cancels that ravage. So hopefully I kind of showcased that. The disease can cancel the ravages from this land or this card. So either cards. Now, just to make it more confusing, because this isn't confusing enough. What happens? There's actually some really cool things that can occur with events, but really I'm gonna grab these two, and I don't want to get too focused on like the strategy, but um, so here wheezing outbreaks or weaseling outbreaks on each board add a disease to a jungle or wetland with the most buildings. Well, look at this. Wetland is ravaging, and this is going to add a disease. That's going to cancel that ravage there that's happening because of that level 1 rule. So the event deck against HME is so interesting because it can really make the game significantly more challenging. Now, what about this? Lingering plagues. On each board, add a disease, but ignore disease during build actions. Well, look at this. Disease and modifiers to disease. So now, if you're in a situation here where I have 3 things on this mountain here with a disease. So it looks like this. Wetlands ravaged. But wait, we flip urban development. So lingering plagues. So we're going to add that disease, but disease are now ignored, which means disease will no longer skip ravage actions. So if we have urban development on this turn, wetland ravaging, take that blight here. This is blighting. There's a disease, but it's ignored. So we blight. So disease ignores can be very painful against this adversary, especially if you're banking on it stopping a ravage blight. Now mountain would build. Once again, this would build. It then becomes a ravage, causing a blight. Now the good news is next turn, this mountain is ravaging again. This mountain is ravaging again, but there's a disease. So if we don't get a disease ignore, that disease will cancel it. So hopefully I was able to talk through level 1 because level 1 can be very, very complex. But after you play it a couple times, you'll eventually get the hang of it. It did take us a while to kind of fully grasp it, but that's where a lot of HME's rule set is built into. Okay, let's get to level 2 here. Okay, level 2, it's going to add an explorer in each land with no Dahan and add a city and disease to the highest number of land with buildings. So city, disease, and we're going to add explorers to the 4 lands without Dahan. And this is just an extra setup to make things a little bit more challenging. I love the extra disease. This is the first adversary that does it. I also like that it adds another city just to create an additional threat. This level 2 is also very key. You won't notice it until you reach level 6. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but there's a really crazy interaction with 2 and level 6 that is going to be different for every board that you pick. So do some homework, play some of the other boards, and see how the board will line up based on level 2 and level 6. And I'll leave it at that and post in the comments what you find because it's very interesting. There's some boards that are significantly better and some that are significantly worse. And it's also going to be dependent on which spirit you pick up. Level 3. So this is the first rule that we're going to be doing every turn. It says after the build step on each board, choose a land with explorers and upgrade there. So we explored. We're now building, build wetlands. So we explored wetlands, explored, and we explored here. We then build wetlands, we build like normal, and then after every build step, upgrade and explore to a town. And that occurs every turn. Now, if you get rid of all of the explorers on your board, you can dodge the mining boom, and that's that level 3. Okay, let's look at level 4. Now, this is the second part of complexity, and we get the salt card. And this is going to make a lot of players salty because this is going to kill a lot of players. So set up, remove the stage 2 coastal card, so there's no coasts, but instead we have a stage 2 salt card that's placed in the deck. The deck order will be 1, 1, 1, 2, salt, 2, 2, and then 5 threes. Let's take a look at that salt card. So when this card explores, you're going to build and explore, or explore and build in the non-mining lands. Now, when it's in the ravage step, all mining lands will ravage, and it will stay there for the rest of the game. So that's, I just said a lot, and I'm going to show a lot, and this is going to be very confusing if this is the first time you've seen the salt card executed. I believe I have another video where it occurs, let's say I have this, and let's do this. Okay. I think the board looks pretty nice like this. Okay. Once again, reviewing, mining lands are lands with 3 or more invaders. So we explore, and this card is the salt card. So we're going to explore. So it's an explore action, and that's going to occur in all non-mining lands. So that means we explore here. There's not 3 invaders. We explore here, 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 here. Now we do not explore on A5 because it's a mining land. Explore on A7 and explore on A8. And that is the salt card. Now when they will build all non-mining lands. So now look at my board. It's about to look like New York City. All lands that are not mining will build. So we'll build here, we'll build here, and that will be it. So we get 3 builds from that card. And now, when it ravages, we also then would explore. But now it will be locked there, and every mining land, so in this case, my entire board, besides this land here, will ravage every turn. As long as it has 3 invaders, it will be ravaging, and that's going to stay there. And this is going to put a ton of pressure. All of HME is coming down to playing around this level 4 rule, okay? It's about trying to minimize how many lands explore, how many lands build, and also how many lands ravage. And that's going to, it takes a while. It takes several games before players can really grasp how to play around this card. It's basically, it's HME's mini game, and it's really fun. It's this big power turn that the players need to play around. I'm not going to say anything more about this card, so let's move on. Level 5, and I love this. Level 5 just gets rid of level 3, and it upgrades level 3. So it simplifies it. Let me reset the board here. So level 5, it says instead of mining boom, level 1, after the build step on each board, choose land with explorers, build there, and then upgrade. So level 3 just said upgrade. Level 5 is going to cause a build, and that's so important because a couple things. First, it's going to add invaders to that land. So if this mountain, it's like, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So wetlands, let me reset that again. Okay, it's been reset. Wetland Explorer, it's now building wetlands. Built here, built here. And now we're playing level 5, so I have to pick a land with explorers. I have to build in that land and upgrade. Well, this is so important because I can choose this land, I can choose this land, I can choose this land, or, oh, I should have a starting explorer here, or I can choose one of these lands. Why is that important? If I choose this land A1, I build there, I then upgrade. So you might say, okay, so you just picked a random mountain. Well, the problem is now I'm going to explore. So if I explore in this mountain, well, now it's a mining land. And now we just talked about that level 1. Now all of a sudden this land is ravaging. So I have this land ravaging, and now my A1 is ravaging as well. So choosing where your level 5 is really important. Trying to think. Oh, it also says build normally in a mining land. And this is a mistake a lot of players, I think, will make at first. Remember how we said that level 1, it says during the build step, build cards cause ravage actions. It says build cards, not build actions. So whatever is in this land here, whatever's in this build spot, that will cause the ravage actions, not extra builds like level 5. Or if you get like an event like fortification, something that causes an extra build. I'm trying to think of another one. The one that builds in the lands with the most buildings. But you guys get the point. It has to be a card here in that build spot. One last thing to point out before I get to the level 6 rule. Cards that specifically skip builds do not skip the ravage. Really important for a spirit like Fangs that has a build skip. And the reason why, so this build skip does not skip the build ravage. So I'll show an example. Wetlands here, it's building. In lands with mining, or in mining lands, they will be ravaging. So ravaging here in A5, building in A2. If I play Prey on Builders in my A5 to skip the build, that doesn't matter. There's no build there. It's a ravage action. And that's because during the build step, build cards cause ravage actions. It's a replacement effect. So before we get to level 6, if you have any questions about any of these rules, definitely leave it in the comments. So level 6, and this is my favorite rule. It says setup and during the explore step on boards with 3 or fewer blights, add an extra explorer in each successfully explored land. So if you have isolates, create pockets, you can kind of get around this. And it maxes out at 2 explorers per board. What does that mean? That means if you're playing against level 6, during setup, you may have a land that was ravaging turn 1. So before you even play cards, well, not before play cards, but before your cards activate your slow powers, there could be a turn 1 ravage. And this is playing around. This is going to combo with that level 2 because that puts more stuff on the board. What do I mean? This is how the board looks. Starting Explorer's Wetland, we have 3 or fewer blight. So Explorer actions are 2 explorers. 2 explorers there, 2 explorers here, A2 and A5. Oh, look. What's a mining land? My A5. And this is the first turn of the game. Now I'm many mines here. I'm looking at my board, and I'm like, oh no. My A5 is ravaging if this is my starting. A5 is ravaging. This is okay. What do I do? And this is, the level 6 rule is so interesting because it's the only adversary in the game that can cause these ravages at setup. And it creates unique build paths. If you guys have seen my Many Mines guide, you'll know I like multiplying Swarm turn 1. Well, against HME, I don't know what the right option is. I haven't played enough games with Many Mines into this to know, am I supposed to just play 1 card? What if I get a land that's ravaging turn 1? Should I try to defend that and try to get Han in there with guide the way on feathered wings? Like move Dahan, then defend it? Not sure. And there's a lot to still be explored. Now, there's a lot of cool strategies where you can try to set up ravages earlier, so then you're taking blight, and then you can have Dahan counterattack earlier so that you can kind of get ahead that way. I do think defense spirits are stronger. And in this adversary overall, being proactive is also stronger. I think the weakest is probably like control, but really we were able to get pretty much every spirit in the game to work into this adversary. I mean, we spent so much time, so many games into this adversary. I think pretty much the whole playing field is fair game, and I think like I played base Earth like 5 to 6 games into this, and like base Earth is like succeeding. Now, granted, it's not easy. Like it takes a lot of time, stressful games, but like it's playable, and I think that just shows just how well this adversary is put together. As I mentioned earlier in the video, this level 2 rule is going to put explorers into different lands. So just looking at this board, I have 3 lands where I can get a turn 1 ravage. Some boards it might be more, some boards it might be less. Once again, do some homework, take a look at the different boards, and I'm curious to see what you guys think, which spirits or which boards are weaker, stronger, and so forth. The last thing to talk about this adversary is it might seem a little bit more difficult when you start off. A lot of people think this is 11, 12, but really I think it's a perfect diff 10. I think that the difficulty on it is spot on. I think it's no different than Prussia 6 or Scotland 6. Once you get the hang of the adversary, you blight a lot, but when you blight a lot, it means you're not going to be taking HME 6 because it's on boards with 3 or fewer blight. So if you have more blight on your board, hello wildfire, then you might be doing better, or you might have a easier game. Now, taking 3 blight on your board means the blight card's flipped, and now you have a blight effect that you have to deal with. But some spirits can kind of avoid this level 6, and it might be easier for them. So this concludes my video. It's a late night video, so hopefully you guys have time to watch it. Tomorrow is a very interesting game. It's a game that you guys have not seen me play before, so really take a look at that video. If you're struggling with Russia, that is the video to watch. So if you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I'll see you guys with more content in the future.